Hi guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to talk about great examples of faith. This is a really good book, the book of Hebrews. So if you guys are interested, please go to Hebrews chapter 11 so we can read along together. Before we get into today's video, I do want to mention that I did start a little Etsy shop if any of you guys are interested, where I do make little magnetic bookmarks that are so convenient, because if you guys are anything like me and like to highlight and put sticky notes all over your Bibles, it can get kind of messy. So these are very convenient because you can just snap them onto the pages. So I will place the link in the description box below where you guys can go to my Etsy shop. Now, let's start with verse 1. This is one of my other favorite books, and although I always say that, I highly encourage you guys to read the Bible on your own, because even though I say, these are my favorite books, and you guys should see for yourself the level of wisdom and love and knowledge that comes from just reading this book. It is absolutely amazing, and I definitely want to exemplify the message that I am reading and starting this channel for the sole purpose of leading these young women and this generation to Christ. Just because I do get a lot of comments of men saying harsh things, that I am leading men astray or I shouldn't be preaching, and I'm in no way trying to deceive absolutely anybody. I am simply just trying to do read along videos so we can read and interpret the Bible together. So if any of you guys are interested, please keep on watching, and we are going to start with Hebrews chapter 11. Great examples of faith. Faith shows the reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. That itself is absolutely amazing. For who hopes for things that he can't see, right? Faith shows a reality of what we hope for. It is the evidence of things we cannot see. Through their faith, the people in days of old earned a good reputation. And I do want to mention, I do have two versions that I read from, which is the ESV version and the NLT version. I'm able to understand the New Living Testament version a little bit better, just because when I read the King James Version, it has a lot of words that I don't understand, or I don't know how to pronounce correctly. So bear with me. By faith, we understand that the entire universe was formed at God's command, and that we now see did not come from anything that can be seen. It was by faith that Abel brought a more acceptable offering to God than Cain did. Abel's offering gave evidence that he was a righteous man, and God showed his approval of his gifts. Although Abel is long dead, he still speaks to us by his example of faith. It was by faith that Enoch was taken up to heaven without dying. He disappeared because God took him. For before he was taken up, he was known as a person who pleased God. And it is impossible to please God without faith. Anyone who wants to come to him must believe that God exists and that he rewards those who sincerely seek him. It was by faith that Noah built a large boat to save his family from the flood. He obeyed God, who warned him about things that had never happened before. By his faith, Noah condemned the rest of the world, and he received the righteousness that comes by faith. It was by faith that Abraham obeyed when God called him to leave home and go to another land that God would give him as his inheritance. When he went without knowing where he was going, and even when he reached the land God promised him, he lived there by faith, for he was like a foreigner living in tents. And so did Isaac and Jacob, who inherited the same promise. Abraham was confidently looking forward to a city with eternal foundations, a city designed and built by God. It was by faith that even Sarah was able to have a child. Though she was barren and was too old, she believed that God would keep his promise. And so a whole nation came from this one man who was as good as dead. A nation with so many people that, like the stars in the sky and the sand on the seashore, there is no way to count them. All these people died still believing in what God had promised them. They did not receive what was promised, but they saw it all from a distance and welcomed it. They agreed that they were foreigners and nomads here on earth. Obviously, people who say such things are looking forward to a country they can call their own. If they had longed for the country they came from, they could have gone back. But they were looking for a better place, a heavenly homeland. That is why God is not ashamed to be called their God, for he has prepared a city for them. It was by faith that Abraham offered Isaac as a sacrifice when God was testing him. Abraham, who had received God's promises, was ready to sacrifice his only son, Isaac. Even though God had told him, Isaac is the son through whom your descendants will be counted. Abraham reasoned that if Isaac died, God was able to bring him back to life again. And in a sense, Abraham did receive his son back from the dead. It was by faith that Isaac promised blessings for the future to his sons Jacob and Esau. It was by faith that Jacob, when he was old and dying, blessed each of Joseph's sons and bowed in worship as he leaned on his staff. It was by faith that Joseph, when he was about to die, said confidently that people of Israel would leave Egypt. He even commanded them to take his bones with them when they left. It was by faith that Moses' parents hid him for 3 months when he was born. They saw that God had given them an unusual child, and they were not afraid to disobey King's command. It was by faith that Moses, when he grew up, refused to be called the son of Pharaoh's daughter. He chose to share the oppression of God's people instead of enjoying the fleeting pleasures of sin. He thought it was better to suffer for the sake of Christ than to own the treasures of Egypt. For he was looking ahead to his great reward. It was by faith that Moses left the land of Egypt, not fearing the king's anger. He kept right on going because he kept his eyes on the one who is invisible. It was by faith that Moses commanded the people of Israel to keep the Passover and to sprinkle blood on the doorposts, so that the angel of death would not kill their firstborn sons. It was by faith that the people of Israel went right through the Red Sea as though they were on dry ground. But when the Egyptians tried to follow, they were all drowned. It was by faith that the people of Israel marched around Jericho for 7 days, and the walls came crashing down. It was by faith that Rahab the prostitute was not destroyed with the people in her city who refused to obey God, for she had given a friendly welcome to the spies. How much more do I need to say? It would take too long to recount the stories of the faith of Gideon, Barak, Samson, Jephthah, David, Samuel, and all the prophets. By faith, these people overthrew kingdoms, ruled with justice, and received what God had promised them. They shut the mouths of lions, quenched the flames of fire, and escaped death by the edge of the sword. Their weakness was turned to strength. They became strong in battle and put whole armies to fight. Women received their loved ones back again from death, but others were tortured, refusing to turn from God in order to be set free. They placed their hope in a better life after the resurrection. Some were jeered at, and their backs were cut open with whips. Others were chained in prisons. Some died by stoning. Some were sawed in half, and others were killed with the sword. Some went about wearing skins of sheep and goats, destitute and oppressed and mistreated. They were too good for this world, wandering over deserts and mountains, hiding in caves and holes in the ground. All these people earned a good reputation because of their faith, yet none of them received all that God has promised. For God has something better in mind for us, so that they would not reach perfection without us. That is so, so good. It is absolutely amazing the stories that come through the Bible about the simplicity of just having faith. I love when I read, I'm not sure in what book it was, but it was even but the faith of a mustard seed and you shall move mountains. And then that woman who was bleeding for 12 years, who just had the faith to had so much faith in him that even by the touch of his garment, of Jesus' garment, she will be healed. And that is exactly what happened. I feel like it's so easy to get caught up by everything that is going on in the world that our faith gets, it trembles, and that is exactly what God is speaking through us through this, having steadfast, firm faith and having him be our firm foundation. That is absolutely beautiful. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe if any of you guys are interested. I will be sure to link down the link to the little Etsy shop in the description box. Have the greatest night, day, week, month, life ever. I absolutely love and adore you guys. God bless.